what? Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Maya. I'm a realtor here in Arizona, and we have Patrick today with us. He's an attorney, and you can tell us a little bit more about what type of law you're practicing, and we'll talk about what's going in Arizona and what advice he can give us. So, hello, Patrick.
Well, thank you, Maya.
Your last name is McQueen, right?
McQueen. Yep,
Patrick
exactly.
McQueen.
You got
Nice.
it.
We'll put information and everything, so you'll have, or you can reach out to me, and I'll be happy to share. But first of all, how are you?
Good, good. I'm great.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. I know you're a busy guy, so let's just anything you want to tell us about yourself quickly. You know, just a couple.
Yeah, I've been doing this real estate law stuff for 21 years now. We do primarily real estate law and some business law, and it's kept me busy for 20 years, and so I'm happy to be here to chat some more.
And I know you do classes because that's where I met you first time. You do like all kind of educational classes, and the one you did, I remember it was the one, you know, when they changed the rule for LLCs, when they had to kind of register, and
yep.
So it was really helpful, actually.
Good.
So I didn't pay anybody. I did it by myself.
Okay.
I found YouTube video. Yeah, so YouTube is, watch YouTube, watch our videos. So anyway, so anything you want to say about, like, in general Arizona, and what's the most common legal mistakes you see, or just kind of a little bit something more specific for Arizona that you see every day or every...
Yeah, you know, right now it seems like we're seeing a lot of HOA issues, people having disputes with their HOAs, and so people need to make sure they understand what HOAs can and can't do. They need to make sure they're reading their HOA documents prior to purchasing a property, or frankly,
Nobody's reading them.
Nobody's reading it. Nobody's reading the contracts. Yeah. So if you take nothing else from today, is read the documents that your real estate agent provides to you. Read the documents.
There's so many.
There's
right?
so many. Yeah, I know, but you gotta
hire you.
Well, there's a stack of them
They can hire you to read for them.
Sure,
right.
sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, they don't. Most people don't, right?
Yeah.
Most people do it on their own. But to me, it's you've got to take a look at those, make sure you understand them, because it's far better to understand them on the front end, make sure you're okay with them, and then move forward, than to move forward and then realize you can't put that third car garage or that pergola in the backyard. So.
And when you say read all, is it okay if you call HOA, or like is it gonna be everything on that documents they send it, or is it any way you can get it like summarized?
Yeah. So
sorry.
Yeah.
Time is everything, right?
It is, and it does. I mean, it's going to take you a morning on the weekend or something to take a look at this stuff.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you know what I do with a client? Like, for example, I know if they have business of, I don't know, whatever business they have. So I know they will need extra, like they have a truck or like food, whatever, So maybe if you know you have some specific needs, call and ask and have in writing confirming, hey, that's okay or that's not okay.
Yeah, I totally agree. So there are headings, there are tables of content in most of these HOA documents, and so you're going to know exactly where to go. Or if you have a specific question, then you can ask me or a real estate agent, whoever, title company, hey, what is the answer to X, Y, and Z, and they'll know where to look. But so there are ways. You don't have to read every single word. I don't recommend every single word. Read what you think is going to be important to you.
And then, I have like a situation, I don't know if that's true or not. I heard that HOA kind of rules is law changing. For example, that if like a couple of neighbors are doing something and you do it and then you get the fine, they can't fine you anymore just because there's other people doing it. Is that true, or how that in generally works? Like, for example, I'm like, oh, my neighbor doing it. Like, why you are coming to me,
That's an interesting question, and it comes up a lot, and it creates a lot of frustration for a lot of people. So what you're getting at is a situation where the HOA is treating certain neighbors differently than you.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, wait a minute, everybody else has been doing it. And so in those situations, you really have to get down to the bottom of it. Like, what is it that's different about me, and why you're targeting me for this type of stuff? And in many instances, the HOAs are just going to be wrong. And that's what we found is that...
HOA is wrong, are you sure?
Oh, my goodness, yes.
I never heard that.
I know, yeah.
Right? Is that happening?
It happens.
So you want sometimes HOAs?
Yeah.
You get... I'm just kidding, yeah. Because they're very... but that's a good thing, that you can, like, kind of, if you cannot deal, maybe that's the reason you have Patrick, you can call and he can help you with dealing with HOA.
Yeah.
I did actually just recently refer one of my clients to you. It's a new build, and he had some issue with building like a higher fence.
Okay.
So that was, I don't know if that's come up ever as an issue in HOA. Like when people kind of, I know no HOA, they don't care so much if the neighbors are okay.
Yeah, so there's different issues. If you're wanting to raise a fence, if you're wanting to potentially block somebody's view, if you're wanting to do those types of things, you're really going to have to talk to the HOA about that. You're going to have to see if it's allowed in your HOA documents. The interesting thing about Arizona, because you kind of asked, you know, what's unique out here, there's no right to a protected view. So like if we had a house next to each other and I put up a big fence or I put up a big wall and it blocked your view of Camelback Mountain or wherever you live, you really wouldn't be able to do anything against me. There's case law that says, hey, look, I can block your view and there's no guarantee, there's no automatic right to a view. Now, if there's a recorded document, a deed restriction, some sort of declaration, a set of CC&Rs that says you can't block other people's views, you can't have a second story, you can't do these things, well then you're violating those. So there's no automatic right outside of the CC&Rs, the declaration, the HOA documents, to have a view. Those CC&Rs, the declaration, may give you those rights.
Okay, so is it possible to add that when you're buying a home?
Possibly, but you're going to have everybody in the adjacent landowners agreeing to that as well. You can have maybe a new build a new build company that owns the property. You can have them put a restriction on your deed or the deeds associated with that. So there's a possibility that you can do that. Now some may say we don't have the time to do that.
So just to understand, so pretty much if you raise it, they cannot do anything about that, or you still have to have approval from HOA to do it?
No, in most situations you're going to have approval to do it. Yeah.
But like you said, like.
But if you're not in an HOA, you may
okay.
not need to have that approval.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so if you're in an HOA, well, let's start this way. In Arizona, there is no guarantee. There's case law that says you are not guaranteed to have a view. So you're not guaranteed to have a view of a mountain, etc. So that means that somebody up the mountain from you or up the road from you can put up a fence that blocks your view. They can put up a second story that blocks your view. But in many instances, there's a deed restriction, or there is a set of CC&Rs, or there's something that's recorded that says, we can't build here like that. We're not going to do that. So the parties who originally developed the land can basically say, we're going to restrict this so that nobody is putting in things that block other people's views.
Another thing why you should read your documents.
100%.
And is that title or HOA? Like who's going to be like the people
could be
who
both.
Can ask?
Yeah.
You can ask both. Yeah.
You know, the title company and the HOA may be able to point you to the provisions, but you're going to have to read it and you're going to have to understand it yourself. That's where I come in and I can say, well, this allows you to do X, Y, and Z, but not 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Whereas the title company, the HOA, they're not going to really want to give you legal advice. They're going to say, here's the provision.
You do whatever.
You do whatever you need to with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you're buying a condo or townhome, even just regular home with HOA, what are the most important questions to ask for HOA? Like I know, some people say ask, if any future assessment, or or like their financial
Yeah.
So you just ask them and ask them to send you, or like how that works?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So it's part of a buyer's due diligence when they're buying a condo, when they're buying in an HOA, when they're buying. You want to know that the HOA has cash, and maybe you want to look at a reserve fund. Maybe you certainly want to review the CC&Rs. You want to look at the bylaws. You want to drive around the neighborhood and see if things are upkept. Additionally, so it's really.
So can you request those in documentation from HOA?
Absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely. And there's under the Arizona Association of Realtors contract, you're required to get those documents prior to close of escrow. Now, in some instances, you won't. And so you as an agent or you as the buyer need to be very proactive in getting those documents, because they're going to say, oh, well, we can't send these right now, that sort of thing.
Do I ask from title or from HOA?
I think your best bet as an agent is probably to try to get it from title.
Yeah,
it's going to be, because they want to serve you guys.
Communication and relationship. Okay, cool.
Exactly. Now, I want to mention something too. HOAs, there's HOA law here in the state of Arizona that allows homeowners, if you're an existing homeowner, to ask for CC&Rs, recent votes, meeting agendas, all sorts of HOA information that you can go and obtain from them. So it's sort of like a public records request. You go to your HOA and you say, hey, look, I want this list of documentation. I want these lists of items. Provide them to me, HOA, and they have to provide them to you. So that's a way to find out kind of what's going on in the HOA.
Okay, HOA is a total, it's a lot of like information we can get from HOA, and you should. That's the reason I live in a neighborhood with no HOA. Well, simple and easy, right? Yeah. Anyway, okay, so we have lots of stuff to talk about, but we did kind of went through. Okay, so we already talked a little bit about this, but like if what are my legal rights when I disagree with my HOA's actions and fees?
Yeah, I think the biggest.
So you did just say kind of you have to hire an attorney, or like you
Not necessarily. Okay. Yeah, not necessarily. So you
necessarily.
No. There's a lot of people that should try to at least take initial steps on their own. So you're going to want to take a look at the CC&Rs and see what rights you have. You're going to want to look at the demand letter that you received from the HOA to see if there's sort of an appeal right. You're going to want to gather as much information as you can from either other homeowners, those types of things, to be able to sort of say, hey, I don't think this is right. Something's going on. And a lot of situations involve people requesting those documents pursuant to their rights to get those documents, and they can see, wait a minute, the HOA is awfully, penalizing a lot of people right now. I wonder what's going on. I wonder why that is. I wonder why they're using this company. I wonder why they're using. And so that statute that allows you to do that is very, very important. And so if you disagree with what's going on in your HOA, you should attend board meetings, which not a lot of people want to do. You should ask questions, which not a lot of people want to do. And then you should investigate the documents to see if the documents sort of jive with what you're hearing and what's going on. Now, you can take it to an extreme and start seeking to get rid of board members if you wanted to. That's a right that you have.
That's my next question.
Okay, good, yeah.
I was
We're transitioning well here.
This is a good one. Can we replace HOA board members?
Can you replace HOA board members? There is a way in the state of Arizona. I don't know the name of the statute off the top of my head.
Okay, that's
but
fine.
There is a way. I don't memorize them all.
We can do it.
You can do it.
Watch out.
Yeah. So here's the way you do it. And if somebody needs a petition, if somebody needs the documentation, feel free to email me. But basically, the recall process, and it just changed in Arizona. So the recall process involves a group of homeowners signing a petition, and in some instances you need 10%. In some instances you need 25% of the membership to sign this petition to remove Bob, Sally, Jim, whoever you don't want on the board. That petition is then submitted to the board, and a special meeting, a special recall meeting to recall these people or not recall them, is supposed to be held within 30 days. Okay, well, that used to create a lot of problems. So what would happen is the other members on the HOA board would say, we don't think this is a valid petition, or we don't want Jim and Bob and Sally off. We're friends with them. We think they've done a fine job. We're not calling this special meeting. And then the homeowners who are not happy would have to turn around and sue the HOA to have this special meeting. It would cost a lot of money in attorney's fees, etc. Well, now, starting in 2025, we have a new statute that basically says if they don't call that special meeting to recall Jim, Bob, and Sally within 30 days, the entire board is gone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we're starting to see, in my opinion, a lot of case law and a lot of statutes that are really pushing back on the authority of HOAs. So there's been a lot of pushback that says HOAs
I don't blame them that.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah.
I feel they're just, you can't my way or no way type of thing.
No, it's
not everybody, but in generally, they were very, kind of. bossy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate. I live in one. I pay like $25 a month. I get pools and whatever. It's nice, but that's the exception. That's rare.
I usually see problem with like condos and townhomes and those kind of and then what I mean, I'm totally, I'm not like, I don't have 100 years experience, obviously. Just kidding. But I'm just saying, I'm not like as experienced. I don't have so, but you know, what I saw from my experience is like, they're on those positions for a long time. Mm-hmm. They feel kind of, oh, you know, you can't do anything. Like, you know, they don't even want to listen to the people who live there or who are buying, selling, entitled. They feel like entitled for that position more than they should. I feel like, you know, like a president or those kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm the president, you know, like I can do whatever, you know, right? So it's like, no, we have to, so I mean, it might be a good thing that they just kind of take a little control from them. I mean, I'm not saying they're always wrong. I think they should be there because, you know, people do crazy stuff, but in the same time, you know, just a little more kind of.
No, it's been an interesting change these last couple of years as to the pushback a little bit. But you're right, we do see a lot with condo associations and townhomes. Probably more issues than in regular
like use
single-family
our
homes.
contractors, like, you know, which is like 3 times more than you know.
Well, that's a great point.
Yeah.
And so, you know, one of the things that we run into are HOA board members who are pushing for the use of their landscapers, or they may own a landscaping company and the HOA has to use them, or the painting company, etc., or the construction company. And to me, that could run afoul. That could be a breach of fiduciary duty by these HOA board members, because they're promoting their own business when they should be promoting the interests of the HOA.
Yeah, they should like have some kind of documentation at least to tell people, okay, hey, we have this deal with them, or I'm the part of the owner, whatever. Let's move on. So should we talk about rental property, or let me first ask you a question. So because I have this a lot, you know, just like disclosures, like seller disclosures. So if I sell my home and fail to disclose one issue, what legal risk do I face?
You face a lot of legal risk if you're not disclosing certain things. I've seen disclosure issues result in punitive damages against the seller for failing to disclose, you know, that a water source was broken, that there wasn't water coming or safe water coming to a house. I've seen many sort of harmful things happen to sellers and buyers when they buy a house where there wasn't something that was disclosed. I've probably handled 200, 250 non-disclosure types of cases, whether I'm representing an agent, whether I'm representing a buyer, a seller, a home inspector. You know, this stuff happens a lot in this state.
And I was 100%, I mean, 100%, nothing is 100%. But you know, when I kind of tell my client, when I represent the seller, it's like, please disclose everything. You know, just because it's for your best interest. However, when I had sometimes situation when different scenarios, but we did sue the seller because they didn't disclose and they lost. They could, like, it was just too long and they couldn't catch up. You know, it's like it just. The seller was in a company, or, you know, they just had more money. And so
that's a problem. It certainly can be a problem if there's a big difference in, you know, who has more money to pay for the attorneys to, you know, push you back or to prosecute the claim.
I mean, is that, you see it as a problem, or kind of, I mean, statistically, you know, for example, I know that especially landlord, they're really protected in Arizona, like very much. But you know, is it the same for like sellers who don't, or it's kind of depends on, you know, who has more money, or it's like really situation? Like,
it's very situation driven, because I don't run into that. No, I do.
I'm not very clear.
Well,
sometimes.
you're basically saying sometimes that, you know, buyers may ultimately get discouraged in continuing to prosecute their claims against the seller because it costs so much money.
Yes.
And
that's
the answer
what
is
I had to complain.
It can be a huge expense. It can be extremely expensive. And so if it's a minor non-disclosure, like, hey, this one windowsill that, occasionally leaks when it rains, kind of a thing, and we can actually replace it for $1,200, well, then don't contact an attorney. You really, in my view, I really don't want to, there's not much I can do for someone who has probably less than $20,000 of damages. And so you really want to make sure you've got a substantial damages amount. The other,
so it will worth your time and
their time and their money is really what it is. I mean, if they want me to do it for under 20, if they have damages under 20,000, I'm going to say, look, you need to take this in stages. This is not something you need to go and blast away a bunch of money unless you really want to. It just doesn't make financial sense in many of those situations when it's 20 or less. What I do like, though, and what we have some success with, or a lot of success with, is the mediation provision in the Standard Form Arizona Association of Realtors contract. So for those who don't know, in most residential real estate contracts, particularly those here in Arizona, there is a mediation provision or an alternative dispute resolution provision, and it says, if you have a claim against me, whether it's for breach of contract or the fact that I didn't disclose these things, we have the opportunity to resolve that through mediation. And what we do in those mediations is we try to hire maybe a retired judge or somebody who's got a lot of experience in this particular area to kind of put pressure on both parties to settle, so they don't have to spend six figures in trying to get this thing resolved.
Yeah.
So mediation is key.
So is that your kind of, as attorney, is that your goal to find resolution? Or, I mean, is that better sometimes than like winning completely? I mean, just kind of random questions.
That's a great question.
Like, is it win-win or I win? Kind of.
That's an interesting question. I don't have a particular philosophy other than I'm going to take direction from the client. And so if the client wants to go all the way and, hey, I want to take this all the way because I really want to prove that this happened and so that it doesn't happen again, well then, that's kind of what we're going to do, even though I'm coaching at the side that says, hey, that might not be the best route. If you understand what I'm telling you, that it's going to be expensive, it's going to be time consuming, you're going to get sick of me, etc. If you're okay with that, then let's go. Fine, we'll do that. But in most situations, I would say it is usually beneficial to do some form of win-win or some form of mediation where, you settle.
That's my approach in negotiations in generally in life.
Yeah. It's less expensive usually that way, and in mediations, the goal, and this kind of sounds funny, but the goal is to have both parties leave the mediation unhappy but done. So both people, so nobody wins, but nobody loses. Yeah. But you're done. You never have to get another bill from me. You never have to talk to me again unless you want to. That sort of thing. So. That's
a good thinking of fine. Just a quick question. So when I have like inspections and we if I present the seller, so the buyer requests those repairs, and then you get inspection report and you get the BINSR and you send to the people to give you estimate. And for example, if sometimes do they have to come physically to the property, or like is their report saying everything is okay? Is that enough for seller to be protected, or you need to kind of say, hey, you need to come and look?
That's interesting. I've been presented with that question. So I would say it's very situation dependent, and so. I
mean, is that the problem of seller, or if something's go wrong in the future, or if that's the problem of that person who gave that report without seeing? Is that like a liability on him and that company? Yeah. Instead, seller.
I think it could be potential.
Or from whatever so from whatever they see in that inspection report, they might conclude that. But if there's any other problem, then it might be.
Then it's not going to be covered. Yeah. So
I don't know.
That's an interesting question. So I think what you're saying is, hey, look, if we have somebody we have a professional who this is what they do on a regular basis. They do plumbing. They do these types of inspections. They do whatever. This is their job. If they've come here and approved this, then are we as the seller sort of okay moving forward? Are we done? Do we have to go and inspect it ourselves? Do we have to do anything else? Is the liability on us, or is it on the professional?
Professional did.
And in those situations,
I mean, can buyer come up if something happened later to seller, or it's gonna go after the company?
I think they'll go after both.
Both.
Yeah, I think they'll go after both.
So it is kind of liability of the seller to be sure to pick the right people and be sure.
Very much, yes, very, very, very much.
But it's kind of, you know, like a little bit too much on the seller side. Don't
In
you
some
think?
instances, yeah, in some instances, because the seller is relying on somebody who has a professional license to do these things. Now, that's why under Arizona law, certain professionals have to give warranties. So under the Registrar of Contractors, there is an automatic warranty. So then in those situations, the seller isn't stuck saying, hey, you messed this up, now I'm holding the bag. The seller can say, hey, you messed this up, but there's a warranty, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, here's the warranty, you can go and use this. So there is a little bit of a work through that way.
Okay. I know you're busy. Just last question.
Sure.
You know, it's about rental properties. Like about if you need to build, like a guest house or casita, like what's the legal steps on that?
Yeah, so there's a couple. There's a couple main things. Now there's some intricate things that each municipality, City of Phoenix,
do you need an attorney for that, or you can?
I don't think so. No, I think in most instances, if you're working with an engineer or you're working with an architect or a builder.
So you need to have all of them or one, or
it depends on exactly what you're doing, but
you're getting like ordering from Amazon.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
You definitely don't want these guys ordered from Amazon, but yeah. So, but you're right. You have a lot of options. So usually it's an architect or a designer who's going to put this thing together, okay? And so they will usually work you through the process. But the first step is to determine whether you live in a municipality that has more than 75,000 people, because that's what the law says. It says if so long as there are more than 75,000 people in this community, then you have the automatic right to do an ADU. We can't really hold up that process. Now there's still a process, but it's much, much easier than it was. And so you need to determine where you live to make sure that this is a situation in which you can do this. Then you need to, and assuming that's the case, then there's certain square footages and those parameters you need to work on depending on the size of your overall lot. Then you need to work on the architect to design the plans, and then they still need to go and apply for permits with whatever city you're in. Now, that's what the municipal codes say. That's how you deal with that on the municipal basis with the cities and towns. You still may have an HOA issue. If you're in an HOA, the HOA may say, you can't do guest houses, you can't do ADUs, you can't do casitas, and then you're not doing them.
So it's more for an HOA community.
Correct.
But like if you find a contractor, could they be doing everything, or you still?
I don't think you need an attorney for most of the ADU stuff. I don't think so, and not anymore, anyways.
But like, if you find a contractor, they should kind of give you. Maybe they have an architect, or like maybe they can help you with the whole thing, or.
Yep, you usually want to get with a group of unless you're doing this on a regular basis. You want to get ththink design professionals on board to help you.
Okay. Do you have Casita?
I don't have a Casita. I would love one.
What do you think about that?
I think it's a good idea. I think it's kind of cool.
I talked about with some appraisals, and they said that there's not so much value in the house for that.
Yeah.
It's just more personal enjoyment, or like, you know, having Airbnb, or, you know.
I would like a Casita where I could kind of just have a golf simulator in there or something like that, and like a cold plunge and a sauna or something.
So cool. Yeah. You see, different. I'll be in my office because it's in the house. I would like to get out.
Yeah, for sure. That's what a lot of people are doing that too.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Patrick, so much.
Of course, my pleasure.
Thank you so much for your time. Do you want to share anything? Lastly, anything new rules, regulation coming to Arizona, or anything that maybe like you warn us about the LLC thing?
Oh,
Is
sure.
it still okay? Still on? I mean.
Oh yeah. Well, you're talking about the Corporate Transparency Act?
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's gone.
So I did pay for no reason.
You possibly did. So. The Corporate Transparency Act was this law that came out a few years ago that basically said we have to provide a whole bunch of information to the federal government, etc. It's still on the books, but there's no current enforcement as to most U.S.-based entities. So most people don't have to comply.
And with the new changes to like citizenships and those kind of, do you see any issues with real estate? Or because I know they cannot apply for some loans, if they don't have permanent citizenship anymore.
Yeah, I don't I don't run into
you
that
don't-
stuff.
you
It
don't-
just
you don't
doesn't.
immigration, that's kind of
Yeah,
immigration stuff.
possibly,
Okay.
yeah, or
Yeah.
lending and those
Yeah.
types of things. Yeah.
Well, anything else to add, or that's
I
it?
just remind people, read the documents, listen
Okay.
to your real estate agents. You know,
Listen
don't.
to your
Yeah.
listen.
Perfect.
I wish, but no, I have clients who listen and hear, and sometimes they don't, but it's okay. We are here to help anyway, and if you have any questions, you can contact Patrick, or you can comment below the video, and we'll see you probably sometime soon. Patrick, do you have any classes coming up soon, maybe?
You know, I do. I probably do one a week right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I do one a week, and that's what I love doing. Is getting
so
out there and teaching.
what do you do usually?
We did one recently on short-term rentals.
Oh,
we did one.
I didn't. Who did you do that with?
I don't remember. Title company.
Title company,
Yeah.
okay, so, okay.
But yeah, we try to do them
There's so
on a regular
many
basis.
can't-
I know.
yeah,
There's just
yeah.
exactly.
Do you
but
have like a newsletter we can sign up, or
we do.
like?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So if you want to just shoot me an email,
Okay.
we can get you on the
Okay.
mailing list, and
Perfect.
we
do
try to be
you-
helpful with that stuff.
Do
It's
you
not-
share the events or no? Or that's kind of the title side?
Yeah, normally the title side. Sometimes we'll do a video on Instagram or something like that, promoting it if it's a bigger one. But,
Okay.
But yeah, normally the title companies will get that information
And
out.
you don't have like YouTube videos or something?
We do have a YouTube channel. Yeah, it's Medalist Legal. So
Okay.
we've got 20, 30 videos on there, and we're updating that
That's
regularly.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's helpful. Well, thank you so much again.
My pleasure.
Okay.
My
See you
pleasure. Happy to
soon.
do it.
Okay,
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Awesome.
Thank
It's
you
easy.
so much.
Of course. Let
I'm
me know
sorry
if you
it
ever want to
took
do this again.
Longer but yeah, if something, if I have any